committee of the whole meeting started. We are kind of using this to indirectly house the finance committee to have a city council budget hearing. So, Mr. Gerton, I will go ahead and turn this over to you at this point.
All right. Thank you all. I want to run through a couple of big picture information to kind of set the tone for where we're headed, and then we'll have plenty of room for discussion here. We are having this meeting because the FRP states that by the end of this month, we will have a budget hearing, and then we need to pass an ordinance to send to Anna Mary. I think that's by the end of November as well. So I've asked about what that ordinance looks like, and I've not had good answers yet from the people that I've talked to yet, but I think we are in uncharted territory for this council, and I think many councils before us, we've not been this far ahead on the budget. So thank you to Mr. Miracle, to Mr. Powers, to getting and our new budget director, to getting us a proposed budget that we're going to look through tonight. So let me explain a couple of handouts that I've given. This document I have just seen a couple hours ago, so I think Mr. Bonzo is going to explain to us whenever he gets here. This is what the projections are looking like for the revenue that we've got coming in for our tax income. And then this two-page document that you have, Mr. Miracle sent stapled together behind it. Mr. Miracle sent this on October 24th as a proposed budget. There are, on the digital copy, there are many tabs that you can look at per department, but this is the overview. And so this is my kind of outline for tonight. I want to explain a couple of columns real quickly. The 2025 Financial Recovery Plan, that is what we passed an ordinance in April. That's what we said we would spend this year. Then the 2026 FRP Financial Recovery Plan forecast is what we forecasted in the ordinance that we passed that we would spend in the upcoming budget year. And then the 2026 requested appropriations, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what Mr. Powers, Mr. Miracle, after talking to all the department heads, this is what you guys have come up with as the first stage of the budget. So then the second to last column, in the last column, variance from FRP in dollars and in percentage from each of those columns, is the difference between what we projected we would spend and what we're looking at spending now. And so because this is a massive discussion, I've been warned of how difficult these have been in other municipalities in the past. Tonight, what I'm primarily focusing on is this final two columns here as to why we're budgeting or cutting, adding or decreasing what we said we would spend via our FRP ordinance back in April. So the PowerPoint that I have up here is going to walk us through a couple of those slides. So we'll start with the revenue, and then we'll go to the variances here in a few minutes. Any questions before we get started with that? All right. So back in 8th of July, Mr. Miracle, this was due middle of July, and he got it done already. So we passed the tax budget, and if you look, I can't even read this. The tax budget says we would spend $32 million in our budget for this upcoming year. And is that correct? Do I have that number? I know the number is correct. But, yeah. Okay. Yeah, making sure. Yeah, that's right. That's what we submitted to the county would be our proposed budget for this year. All right. So the next information is forecasted tax projections from the financial recovery plan. So again, what we passed in April, we forecasted that we would spend 29 in 26, 29.7 million, and forecasted in 2027, 30 million, 30.6 million, and then 31.1 million. So we are spending more than we had said we were going to spend in the newest tax budget. But that's what we're here to talk about tonight. I mean, things cost more. It's not like we're just making these numbers up and just, willy-nilly spending more. So more information from the FRP. This is the top line here is forecasted revenue. So that's what I just showed you. Then the middle line is forecasted expenses from the FRP that we, the ordinance that we passed. And then what's important right now, and I think Mr. Bonzo will have more information because these will definitely be updated. But what I think is important to talk about is that we are spending more money than we are projected to take in. However, we have a large cash unencumbered balance that we need to deal with. And there's one mindset is to save this money as much as possible for the next time we have the rug pulled out from underneath us. The other way to look at this is, why are we taxing people if we have money that we're not spending? And so we need to know, as a council and as a city, how are we going to spend this money? Are we investing this into getting deferred maintenance done? Or are we going to, or why are we asking for a road levy, or why are we asking for a renewal of our operating levy if we just keep having these kind of funds in here? Mr. Bonzo, I just got started, so we've not even discussed the handout that you have, but I think that is probably one more slide. We can ask you about that. Okay. So this is just the numbers that I just showed you. This is what they look like in a bar chart. So you can see that we are spending more than we have revenue, at least projected. And then our unencumbered balance, we are spending down, down, and down. So we need to be very aware that we are spending a lot of money, and we're decreasing our savings account drastically. Right now, it's projected to be just under $2 million that we will have in our bank account. But Mr. Bonsla, I don't want to put you on the spot since you just walked in, but do you want to talk over more updated projections that are more accurate to today's information?
I would love to, thank you. And
everybody has a copy of that document.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that your graph does not have specific numbers in here.
No, you're fine.
But basically the bottom line number on the earnings tax estimates for 26 through 30, we are projected to end 2025 about 6% above where we were in 2024, and about 5.6% above what we had projected for 2025 or originally, or in the last plan. So that's about $1.2 million more than what we thought we were going to be out in the plan, for earnings tax, not for any other revenue. And so basically these numbers are just kind of showing that, well, everything that does not negate anything that's being said, because it's going to happen in the plan. No matter, everything you just said is exactly what will happen, is that we'll have more expenses than revenue. However, there will be about $6.6 million more in this next plan just from 2026 to 2029 than there were in the previous plan. So basically, you have your same 4 years. You'll have about $1.3 million more each year from 26 to 29. That will give you just a little bit more flexibility to invest or to do the things that you all would like to do. So yeah, that's basically the summation of where I'm at.
So that means we have some flexibility, that we can spend more than we are taking in currently because of the cushion, because of the good work of the Treasurer's Office to make sure that we're maximizing our interests. To be very clear, some of this, the detail of this information is beyond me, so that's why we have a very good treasurer and a very good auditor. But the big picture, I think, is understood. Ms. Francis.
I had a question about, obviously, we have more than what we need for the FRP as far as cash reserves. What percentage of our budget are we required to have in cash reserves according to the FRP? I can't think of the number.
I think the number, and Mr. Miracle, but when we first did the FRP, it was somewhere around, what is it, $2 million. So I don't know what that percentage equates to, but our revenue was a lot less back then.
So
which
$2
is
million.
$2 million is a little amount, but it's not as much as I would love it to be. But that is what, like, that final number at the end is usually around $2 million.
Okay, I just figured I'd ask.
Okay, so then,
If I may jump in. So, I guess my question is, James, and again, thank you to your office for the good work to over collect or underestimate, however you want to consider it. I guess my question would be, for Mr. Miracle, is the sort of surplus that the tax department has collected reflected in the initial draft of the 26 budget that we have. Meaning, is that overage accounted for, or would that be sort of new money relative to what was originally drafted here, and therefore we would have sort of more wiggle room than maybe we originally thought as this document came together?
I think that was originally based on the estimate, and obviously the treasurer's office has done, more on top of that. So no, that, I don't think that's reflected. Because we're continuing to do this, and like Jeff had said when we started here, we want to get this process started earlier so we can have time for you to look at this, because this is probably a 4 to 5 month process. And on the financial recovery plan, which I have here in front of me, the last one was passed on April the 8th, so we have to pass that within a year of that. So just quickly, I want to add a couple things. What we're doing here tonight, we're talking about the 2026 budget. You've submitted, I think, 10 or so items that we're going to talk about this evening. And what we have to do prior to the end of the year, we're going to close out open purchase orders, okay? We're also going to do the appropriations at the end of the year. Typically, that's the last council meeting of the year. Then we're going to close out the year. That'll probably be, probably the 10th through the 15th of January. And then this budget has to go to the FRP. They have to approve it before council does, okay? So, and once they do that, there's going to be a lot of back and forth, as Mr. Powers knows, because there's a lot of questions that come forth. And then this will go to the FRP, and then they will pass it. Then we do the 2026 appropriations, and then we can start actually spending the money. So that's kind of simplistic explanation there. So, but to answer your question, I know that was a long-winded answer, but to answer your question, these budgets are based on estimates. And in this case, the Treasurer's Office done a fantastic job, and we're ahead of those.
And I will just note that we really do try to be as reasonable as we can. In previous years, before I took office, we were estimating always 1% increases. And the financial supervisors had some things when I brought 2% thing, and they were like, really? You think you can do it? It's like, yeah, I really think we're gonna be fine. And of course, there's been a lot of development in the city, but we just don't know exactly how much things are gonna do until they're done. So it will happen eventually. I will underestimate or overestimate, and so when that does happen, I apologize. But we very much we're not trying to. I do not try to lowball numbers at all. So just so everybody knows, we do want to try to get as accurate as possible without putting the city in a bad position later by overestimating.
All right, any further questions at this point? Okay, so to move on, this slide here is a document that you already have in your hand. So it's just a visual overview of the detail that you have in your hand. And again, this is what I talked about earlier, where it has the recovery plan, the forecast for 26, the request appropriation, and then the variance. And so I want to zoom in just to kind of highlight again. The FRP budget for this year is $34.7 million. The forecasted for next year was 34.2, so we were intending to spend less. And then the requested appropriation is 35.7 million. So there's a variance of $1.5 million. What that looks like in a bar chart here, again, we're requesting to spend much more than we spent this year, and then we projected to spend next year. So where, you can just look at that again. What we're going to talk about now is this right column over here, all of the dollars and the percentages of where we're requesting to spend over top of what we projected. So that should be on the far right column of that page that you have right there.
So, Mr. Gooden, if I'm understanding this correctly, so basically, if we are sort of 1.49 over the plan from last April, right?
Yes.
I think what Mr. Bonsel's saying is that of that 1.49, that about 1.2 million of that is sort of being infused from the overperformance of his office. And then the balance of that, let's just call it 290,000 is, let's say, incremental drawdown from the carryover unencumbered balances. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that it looks like we're spending a lot, but we have performed better because of, I think, a good economy, good treasurer's office collecting taxes from people who should be paying them. So yes, yeah, that doesn't look as bad in reality as it seems. So here's where I want to focus on for the rest of tonight. I've got a couple more slides to drill down into this, but this shows where the amount of the budget of people requesting or departments requesting more, this is where that money is going. So it looks like the fire department is only requesting 5.7% above what they were projected, but their 5.7% is $600,000. We have a huge pocket of that in public lands, in earning tax line item of the budget, in crime control, and in streets. So there are, what we're going to do next is have a conversation about why we are asking for more than we projected to ask for. Does that make sense for those of you who are more budgetary experts? Okay, just making sure I'm trying to do my best here to do this well. All right, so let's then, I guess let's just pause right here. The next slide I've got is just a sorted document or a sorted version of this document that you have. It shows that the highest percentages of, by percentage. So let's just go back here because it's more colorful. Our new budget director, Mr. Zimmerman, or Mr. Powers, would you like to kind of walk through any of these items with us, or should we drill down and just ask question by question?
I think if you have any specific questions, we'd be happy to address those.
Okay. Do I want to just open up questions from the committee, or I've been looking at this for a while, so I don't want to just own the entire time.
It would be helpful for me if you could just sort of give a couple bullets as to, like the fire department, that is 600,000 because of staffing, because we had to buy a truck, because.
So there are some additional staffing costs that have increased with our current collective bargaining agreement. Included in this are also replacement for all the EMS and police radios. So both departments have to replace the radios. That's a Hamilton County mandate. So you'll see $350,000 is the cost for the fire department there. Similar cost in the police department. We have also moved the striker lease, which was approved earlier this year for that EMS equipment. The heart monitors are included in here now. And then there is purchase and interest for the acquisition of a ladder truck to replace our current ladder truck.
Is it fair to say, though, that, thank you, that was a helpful overview. Is it fair to say, though, that ultimately, because I think out in that right part of the workbook, that really it's like in terms of the overage, that it's largely the personnel services is the bulk of that 600,000?
No, I would say that the bulk of that 600,000 is probably the capital cost. Although the personnel expenditures are far and away the biggest portion of that. Personnel expenditures in the fire department is about $9.7 million.
Got it. Thank you.
It's roughly 2/3 of our budget goes to police and fire.
Yeah, that's correct.
Since we're on fire safety, I did talk to Chief Sumner about the crime control, the red on the left side of this. Apparently in the previous police administration, we were saving every body cam interaction that we have. And so that has taken up way more terabytes of space in the storage that we pay for. Apparently we pay for 5 terabytes of storage, and we've been using 26 terabytes of storage because of this policy. So one of the things that Chief Sumner is doing is deleting some of those videos that are deemed to be, not deleting, saving them for a much shorter amount of time. For those that are deemed to be just routine traffic stops where the person has paid it out. So we'll save that for a couple of months. And then other things we will save for a longer amount of time. So from what I understand, if you have any more information on this, part of their request for $166,000 is to pay for not necessarily new body cams, but storage that we would have to pay for all of the body cam footage that is going drastically up after this last renewal of the lease. Do you have any more information on that, or is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. I will say the chief would love to see more in, and we talked about this in the finance committee, more in terms of police cruisers. Apparently we have gotten the ones from Enterprise that were stuck in the ether there for a while. Those are back online, but there is still a need there for more police cruisers. If we want to move on to public lands, or any questions about the police department crime control budget?
I had a kind of a question, just in general for all personnel. What kind of increase in healthcare costs are we looking at for next year? Or is that even something that's been factored into this budget yet?
So this budget has built into it a 28.5% increase in healthcare costs and changing the employee share from 7.5% to 9%.
Okay.
Since that time, and when I say that time, since this was initially submitted, our HR director, Lori Zombeck, has done some really good work along with Hub, our healthcare advisor. We've been able to reduce that to about 16.2%, which is still a very significant increase. The employee share of that would increase to 8.5%, so a smaller percentage because we were able to reduce that. But that will put some dollars back into this budget. So we will have to go through and adjust that, and that will be a positive for the overall dollar figures you see here.
That's good, because I know for Xavier, ours went up about 24.5% this year, so I knew it was going to be similar for all similar size organizations. I'm glad Lori's done great work with that, because that's going to be huge savings, like exponential every percentage. Anyway, sorry.
No, thanks for the question. I know we had submitted a question earlier about, is there any information you can tell us about the jump in the public land, public buildings and land line item budget? That's a significant increase. What are the administration's goals, or is there anything that you can share there?
So one of the major capital expenditures in there is strategic property acquisition. That's $400,000 expenditure listed in the capital budget. That may sound kind of vague, and it is vague, basically so that we're not telling the world who we're negotiating with, but we do have a parcel in town that we are interested in acquiring that would be very beneficial to the city. I'd be happy to talk with council members individually if you'd like information about that ahead of time, or if we need to schedule an executive session at some point in the future to discuss that, we can certainly do that as well.
No, I think that is very reasonable given the sensitivity of that information. Any follow-up questions about that? I know, Mr. Moore, you had brought up that question as well.
Yeah, I don't have any follow-up questions. It sounds like it's more imminent than hypothetical, and
Yes.
So I appreciate that. And I think the only other question while we're on the public buildings and lands was just around the $250K for the public entities pool. I'm guessing that has to do with the management fee at Waterworks, but maybe no?
The public entities pool is our insurance.
Okay.
So this is the group that insures essentially everything, all of our buildings, all of our police cars, all of our fire engines. We have been working to make that number as manageable as possible. For a very long time, the city was considered a very high risk insurance risk. We have managed to bring that down. We were considered a priority for nearly a decade. Priority is not what you want to be. We left that about 2 years ago. So that is positively impacting our rates, but when you have as much to insure as we do, it is always going to be a significant expense.
Thank you.
Anything else on public lands? All right, Mr. Bonzo, can we turn this over to you? You have two items on here if you want to address both. First of all, Can, just since I have just recently learned this a little bit, what's the difference between the earning tax line of the budget and the treasury line of the budget? And then could you explain the two different requests there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Treasury Department, or we'll start, the Earnings Tax Department is traditionally just the department that is collecting all of the earnings taxes. So the tax commissioner, right now there are 4 funded, tax commissioner plus 4 funded tax clerks. One of the tax clerks is a lead tax clerk, so they're a little bit higher pay scale. What we are proposing to do is, we'll start with the tax here. And my numbers actually were slightly off here. I forgot to double check that Noah had updated the health insurance on some of these numbers. So my numbers, but I did try to go under last year's. Just want to make sure we know that health insurance got me though. Earnings taxes were, so we collect them there. So you'll see there the personnel for, the 2026 FRP, it had $481,000. We are wanting to move our lead tax clerk to the Treasury Department as a manager, so be like deputy treasurer. So basically move that position over, and so that's why you'll see a decrease in personnel under the tax department and an increase in personnel over the Treasury Department. And then with that as well, so that's why the Treasury Department looks higher, has an increase. The tax department has an increase because right now we're kind of in negotiations with the school district on kind of settling the chaos that's been going on this summer. So with that, we're just estimating that likely with that there will be about a $350,000 payment that we'll make to the school district for their share of some earnings taxes from some of the properties that have CRAs on them. So it'll be $350,000 in 2026, and then it'll go down in future years. So it'll be a lot less, probably like $150,000 per year for a couple more years. And then that'll actually taper off to zero after a period of time. But yeah, so the treasury's higher, the treasury's higher because we're moving an employee from the tax. The tax would have been even higher but we took an employee from the tax and we're putting them in the treasury. So that's why both my departments hit the thing. If we don't end up doing the settlement though, then our budget will just be whatever the standard health insurance increase basically is. But if the settlement happens, then the payment will come out of there. And that was something that I talked to Noah about and Keith about before. Just, hey, do you want the payment in our department or do you want it in one of your departments? And he thought it was appropriate to be there.
Thank you. Any questions then for Mr. Bonds? Mr. Powers.
The only thing I would follow up with is I've thought a lot about where's the appropriate place to put that. I can't think of a better place to put it, although I would say that I don't necessarily love putting it there. But it does have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I'll just say one other thing that you and I talked about yesterday is that just the reason why contractual is so high in the tax department is because we actually have to budget for tax refunds. So like when companies a lot of times they'll estimate how much they think they'll owe us for their net profit tax or just employees that work at companies here that'll have their taxes withheld. They might end up working from home for a period of time and they come and request a refund. So we have to budget those in order to pay those. We can't just pay them out of excess. So we have to have appropriation. So that's why you just see the tax department so high. Like 95% of that is of the $468,000 that we originally requested for 2026. 95% of that would be earnings tax refunds.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So that's so that would be on the tax tab of the workbook under contractual services.
Yes.
So is there, if I'm reading it right, that is 818,000?
Well, the 818,000 includes the $350,000 school payment.
Okay, got it. So that is then 468,000, let's say.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Like, does that give us some wiggle room, such that like at the end of 2026 we might come back and say, oh, well, we didn't end up having that to reimburse all that, or do you feel like that's kind of? Is there any chance that's cutting it close? I guess is ultimately my question.
So for 2025, the total amount. Let me just grab that. Basically, we're basically run out essentially in 2025, but we're going to be fine. We have 90 days to pay refund requests, so a little bit of the end of 25 is going to bleed into 26, which I think Tim and I have talked about this extensively, like we think we're fine. There's a couple of larger companies that like overpaid us basically just with their net profit tax estimates. But yeah, no, I do think that like it's probably a solid amount. I mean, Noah interviewed me too about my budget request as well. And we did talk about it. And I think that's where we, if possible, that's probably a good place. We're happy to do what we can though and come back to you later, but I do want to avoid having to go to you all later for more.
So in the case of 2025, it sounds like we did cut it too close. And so you've upped that appropriately for 2026 to give some more margin of error.
Yes. So so right now, so far we've paid out $259,000, but Tim's got a couple of big refund payments that he needs to process. So
Okay.
yeah, it is going to get very close.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the streets section. We did not budget as much as we did currently for this current year because we spent a hefty amount, over $3 million to get Montgomery and to get the 561 Smith to Carthage. But we still budgeted a hefty amount for streets, and we're requesting more for streets than we had projected. We both have Public Works and Budget Director here who was sitting with dual hats. Mr. Powers or Mr. Zimmerman, would you like to speak to anything that's in the street section? Yeah, you have a microphone.
Without the workbook in front of me, just off the top of my head, there are several things that we have, we continue to apply for funding for outside sources, things of that nature. I can't remember exactly what we had under the streets section currently. Do you have a printout for that?
A couple of items we had. We do need to purchase a new dump truck for the Public Works Department.
And the hydraulic system for that?
That's correct.
So the salt spreader, that's significant amount.
There's also funding for crosswalk upgrades, and a pretty significant amount is split between the street fund, the general fund street fund, and the storm sewer fund for the purchase of a new street sweeper.
I know that I've seen it up close. It is a very old piece of equipment.
It's very old by street sweeper terms. Street sweepers kind of age like dogs. So, every time you see it, it's 7 years older. They're going around, they're sweeping garbage into their internals, so they do not last very long.
Like that, it's the worst condition for a piece of machinery to be in and still function. There's dust everywhere.
And I would just to put this out there, we bought the unit that we're using was already 5 years old when we bought it. We bought it used. So this one that we're budgeting for would be a new one, to be I believe what we're looking at right now on state contract is a Elgin Pelican model, which is basically the same thing we've got. It's just, it'd be newer and better.
Well, I think it's an important maybe place to pause just to say we're proposing to spend a lot of money, but it's not like anything we've heard today are exorbitant things or, that we've not made exorbitant purchases in the past. Like you said, we were very frugal apparently in buying a 5-year-old sweeper. I think, and I've mentioned this to you whenever you came to council a couple months ago. I love the fact that you can tell a huge difference between Cincinnati streets and Norwood streets when it comes to the wintertime. Public Works takes care of us very well. And so a salt truck is not something that's a very frivolous piece of equipment to spend on. Or at least it doesn't look sexy to spend that money on that kind of equipment.
And I will say of the 4 large dump trucks that we run salt with, 2 of them are from 2007. So those are the ones we're trying to cycle.
Oh, no.
So near 20 years old.
Correct.
All right. We've
Mr.
talked
Gurr,
about,
excuse me, sir. I just want to make a comment. These two gentlemen right here, Mr. Powers and Mr. Zimmerman, just for everybody watching, I don't know if they're aware of this, but Mr. Powers was able to get $1.5 million grant to help on the Elm Avenue street project, if I'm not mistaken there.
Thankfully, we were able to get 2.3 million.
2.3, forgive me, I'm just off 800,000, but I think it's worth noting that the expertise of these two gentlemen have gotten millions of dollars in grants for the city. And for that Elm Avenue project just by itself, just as Noah just said, $2.3 million, I think that's amazing. I know what Mr. Zimmerman does as well. So I think that's well worth noting for everyone that's watching here, that these gentlemen do an exceptional job.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
May I ask? Just while we're on the topic of the streets, Mr. Bonsall, I know previously you had commented on, you're going to need to help me here, the home community revenue share from the several dispensaries that are located in Norwood. I know at one point you had talked about estimates of what that might be worth and sort of working to try to make sure that doesn't get clawed back by the state, with the idea that maybe that could go into the street fund and be sort of earmarked in that way. Do you have any just update about that revenue sharing?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moore. Yeah, I have no update on it. We have reached out to them a couple weeks ago. We reached out. We have not received a check. Person we talked to didn't know when we could receive a check. So my recommendation is, my estimate initially was about I think around $200,000 a year. Since then, they've cut they've cut part of it. So there's only 20% of the excise tax going to that now. So basically, it's likely to be less. And then also, they put a 4-year time limit on it. So likely, if we do get it, I do think that we'll reach out, because right now they just get deposited to the general fund. I do think that it still would be great to put in the street fund, because it's going to not be permanent money. We don't want to count on it in our budgeting. So putting it in the streets is an easy place to put it. But yeah, I think it's really up to kind of your all's purview where you all do, where you do want it. I think you all could direct us either way. I've not heard anything from the state auditors that we couldn't put it there. So.
And so it sounds like we don't have enough information that we could count on that money in this planning process, but it might be sort of like a check from your grandma that shows up unexpectedly at some point in 2026, and you're lucky to have it.
Exactly, yeah. And you all, like I said, if you all wanted to at some point, you could pass, I don't know, an ordinance resolution, talk to the law department directing that's where those funds should go. The good thing is if you do it in the middle, if in a year, let's just say we get it in February next year, we have the whole year that we can make the adjustment in the same year. But once the year is closed, you can't make the adjustment. So I don't think there's an urgency. I really don't think we're getting it in the next 2 months. We haven't gotten in the last 36 or 24 months, But yeah, I think it's I'm glad you brought that back up.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so if you look on the left side, the table, you can see that everything we've been talking about so far has been above $79,000 worth of expenses. The next section of our pot is all just over $40,000 to $50,000. Let's see, Mr. Powers, could you speak to the building department or the police administration while we're at it? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Not a problem. That's what I'm here for. So the building department is primarily in contractual services. We are trying to kind of improve the technology that we use down in that department, make it so that we're better able to take in applications electronically, something we're hoping to be able to do, better able to review plans in a digital format. We do also have additional subscriptions and memberships now that we are fully staffed. And so there's those, and then there's also some additional training needed for our building commissioner to get him fully licensed with everything we would like him to have.
Thank you, sir. Police administration, I talked to Chief Sumner, and he hadn't heard yet why this line item, or couldn't tell me where the police administration budget was increased.
That is probably, I would say, primarily just personnel expenditures. One thing to keep in mind throughout this entire thing, and we haven't touched on this point yet, is that 2026 is one of the rare years where there are 27 pay periods. So we do have an additional, just in police administration, $11,800. It's an increase there. So I would say that certainly accounts for a portion of that.
And it looks like also Duke Energy, due to rising energy costs, has doubled from 6,000 to 12,000 in administration. So it's probably part of the cost. It looks like it's just couple of things where things just kind of added up to that amount, not one particular thing.
I would agree with that. It's not any one particular item that has pushed that up that way.
Thank you, gentlemen, or madam. Mr. Miracle, you're next on the auditor's line.
Thank you, Mr. Curtin. As you know, we use SSI VIP, and annually that costs us roughly $53,000. And over the past few years, we have had not been fully utilizing the modules that we have and that we pay for. So one of the things that we've been working on this year is to make sure that we do that. And then we found out that we were 3 updates behind. So we had to work with TA and his team in Norcom. We had to spend $14,000 to upgrade the software that we had, and then we had to pay for those additional upgrades that we were in arrears for. So that was probably a pretty significant portion of that we had no knowledge of previously earlier in the year. So, but now we're up to date with that. I'm happy to report. I'll probably share this with you at the Finance Committee meeting on the, I think it's the 25th. We've been working with a local municipality here that uses the same software that we do. So my idea was to talk to them and get some free advice and training from them. So we had about an hour-and-a-half call earlier this week. And then this Thursday, I have 3 of my staff going there for a 3-hour meeting. They've been very kind to us and showing us what the full potential of this is. And I think that everyone in this room will be pretty excited when you see what we can actually do when we utilize this. My goal for 2026 is to be paperless. We've talked about our retention schedule, and I won't beat that horse, but I talk about that way too much, but there's a lot of paper here. We're trying to get, in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code and get that where it needs to be. But I think that moving forward with trying to have all of everything in the system is going to be beneficial for us. We're going to be more efficient, and there's even just to give you I'm going to tip my hand here a little bit, but there's, I don't know if you guys know this, but Mr. Powers has to sign requisitions for about 2 days at the beginning of the year. And so to save his hand, we're, in all seriousness, we're going to have where you're able to do all of this online. You'll get an email. We have levels of sign-offs. So when one person signs off, then the next person needs to sign. They get an email, hey, you need to sign off on this. So it's pretty cool, I will say, and looking forward to that. So we've got a couple months of hard work here that we want to put in so that we can make sure that we utilize that moving forward. And also, one of the other things to get this up to speed was with the VIP, we can put the budget in VIP and not have to do an Excel spreadsheet. So that's exciting as well. So we did have some additional cost trying to get up to speed with the SSI VIP, but we're where we want to be now.
And if you've not been paying attention to, not you, sorry, if anybody has not been paying attention to Finance Committee meetings, Mr. Miracle has put a ton of effort into making sure that we're very transparent, that you can go onto the website and VIP Analytics will make it even easier to have a very user interface friendly situation where any regular citizen can go on our website and see where we're spending our money. So I appreciate that, sir. All right, Hoover.
Sorry, for the contractual services, that includes the Monday.com, if is under that?
Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank
All
you.
right, thank
Thank you for bringing that up. I was going to say that.
All right, let's see. Mr. Budget Director, Mr. Public Works, Superintendent of Public Works, there's a $40,000 increase requested in the Superintendent of Public Works line. Could you please explain any context that might be helpful?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe that reflects the hiring of the assistant superintendent, correct? So that would be RJ Strange is the new assistant superintendent of public works. He will be especially, it's been really hard to have somebody overseeing 17 people at Public Works and then also trying to do road reconstruction projects, water main projects, water line projects. It's going to help. It's the better way to run the department, and especially as I start, once my replacement has been found and named, as I step away, RJ is going to be key in making sure that that department continues to run well.
Thank you, sir. And lastly, on this slide here, the community, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So is it, like, I guess, so does the increase come from the creation of that new position? Is that what I'm understanding, or?
Correct.
Okay. Whereas, so it's relative to what we thought the FRP would be a year ago. The introduction of that is responsible for the overage. Okay.
All right, and then Mr. Powers, I'm guessing you're the person to direct this question to about the community center.
The community center is kind of similar to the police administration. There's just a number of smaller items that are increased in there. Personnel expenditures, we do have some part-time staff down there, and there's also some additional contractual services that have increased.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which has a few things. Again, if you look at this document here, there's the detail is there. So this is just selected. I picked everything that was above $25,000. There is a big jump that goes from $25,000 down to $10,000. And so I'm including that in this thing here, which again is visible on your document here. So there's just a couple of little things that are, like I said, small underneath $10,000. One that I want to point out just for transparency's sake, and Mr. Gears, I'm going to bring you in on this. There is an increase in the clerk of council line for almost $9,000. However, before I go any further, if you look at the next page, we're actually decreasing the city council budget $10,000 or $11,000. So it's not like we're just throwing in eight new brand $1,000.
Eight brand new, yeah,
Yeah.
nailed it.
8,000 brand new dollars?
Thank you. That's what I should
Sure,
have said.
that's why you're president.
But just out of, for the sake of transparency, since we're adding money to our budget, could you speak to anything that we need to add there?
Yes. So we did reduce some of the numbers for publishing because we should not have the ongoing expenses since we will be publishing some of those items for free in-house via the city, I believe the city's Facebook page, as well as the city website. The other difference, or some of the additional expense, is having our ordinances, resolutions, and minutes bound. So the originals all get bound once we have a nice supply of them to actually pay, to have them put in books bound, so we're not flipping through files and folders, and those are all then placed in the safe that is in the clerk of council's office. So that is not a cheap expense. And then we also have the ongoing expense of Civic Plus and Civic Clerk.
Ms. Hoover.
I see that there's a cost for council for $8,000 for publishing and for clerk for $10,000. I'm assuming those are two separate publishing.
They are,
Is
yes.
which?
So we have some that are limited to ordinances, resolutions, and others that are public hearings, because we'll still have to advertise our public hearings.
All right, thank you.
And we also added in, was it city council? Some miscellaneous expenses. I believe council was at like 0 for materials and supplies. So we have in the money, we will now have in the budget for nameplates and business cards.
All right, I don't want to skip over any of these others that are in the $9,000 range, but for the sake of time, I don't want to get down into the weeds on that. Those seem like reasonable expenses. Any questions that while we have the time right now to ask about that? Yes, Mr. Moore.
Just with regard to, I know NCTV was a thing that came up, just kind of while we're on council and work.
Sure.
I don't know if now is the appropriate time to talk about those.
We might as well, since we're talking about increasing budgets. Let's focus on that for a second. Yeah, you want to bring up anything specific, or should I take over?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I guess this is to Mr. Powers, Mr. Auditor, Mr. Miracle. We are very interested in helping to fund Norwood Community Television. For those who need a refresher, Norwood Community Television, the way that you're watching us at home right now, or the way that you're able to stream it whenever you get off work and want to look at it later, that is completely funded by subscription fees through the cable service. So Norwood Community Television has a very, very slim operating budget, but that budget is not covered by their subscription fees. And so the more that people cut the cable cord, the less money that they have to operate. So they have requested more than this from us in the past, but the Norwood City Schools has chipped in money to help with their shortfall, so that they can continue to the basketball games and school board meetings and football games and whatnot. But we are left with a deficit of $24,000. And the Finance Committee has talked about this in the past, and we would like to see, at least the best idea we have right now, is in contractual services underneath the City Council budget. We are requesting $24,000 to be added to that for the explicit purpose of funding Norwood Community Television. That wouldn't go to anything else in community or City Council. But the Finance Committee would like to see that before we vote on this budget. Since we have two other members of council that are not here from the Finance Committee, if you have any voice you want to weigh in on that, or if anybody else does, it seems like a big bang for our buck, because otherwise we're going to have to find a completely new option to televise our meetings. It is not required by law, if I'm correct, that we televise our meetings, but it is obviously good practice that citizens, I think, very much appreciate the ability to keep an eye and have their own version of transparency over this. So is there any discussion that I can open up the table to? Ms. Hoover.
This is maybe just more of a comment. I absolutely want to support them. I'm also aware that they also record planning commission. So I guess my question is, should they have a piece of the responsibility of that as well? I understand that we're talking about working with the schools, and the schools are interested in supporting them as well. But is there anything besides planning commission?
I know they do the financial supervision meetings. Is that what they're called? That's a good question. Are there any other meetings that we are aware of?
Social trunk or treats, I think they do.
BZA?
Oh,
Do they not do BZA?
They don't do BZA,
Oh,
they
my
just do
bad.
planning commission, which is
Mr.
interesting.
Mr. Powers.
If I may, the Planning Commission does not have an independent budget.
Is the planning commission under the mayor or under you?
It is not,
I-
it's not technically under anything.
The expenses that come, I mean, I think it doesn't necessarily matter for whether it's in council or not. I don't think anybody's going to judge council, oh my gosh, on that. But the expenses for the planning commission that would come out of the building department fund, or the building department key, right?
Yeah, when things are paid for the Planning Commission, they typically come out of the building department. That's correct.
And
So
then,
the-
do they pay them? Do they already pay for a recording though? Don't they have a stenographer there or something that they?
They do, yes, that's correct. And that is paid for by the building department.
And then is that considered the official record, or do they actually use the recording from NCT as some kind of record?
The official recording is the stenographer's record.
Okay.
Does the BZA use the stenographer?
They have in the past.
It's a fair question. Yeah.
I'm happy to support it, I'm just wanting to make sure that.
Yeah, I think no matter where it comes from, whatever is deemed appropriate for appropriations, it seems like a fairly small amount of ask for something that really helps us reach a lot more people than we could without it. And having looked into other communities use more other services for recording, but they're spread over several communities. They may not be able to get to every event or every meeting, whereas we have it committed to just Norwood.
Yeah. I do think there is a longer term discussion that needs to happen. Their budget is around $140,000 for the full service. And, not that I'm a projectionist, but clearly people are going to keep cutting the cord if trends continue. And so we're going to have to fund this probably more the next year if we want to continue those services. So I think there is a longer term conversation about how we should do this. I was talking to somebody this week, and there's a municipality that simply just has a cell phone on Facebook Live that's on their dais or somewhere. So we have a very good service right now that I think we would lose the ability to have our microphones very clearly articulated over the streaming services if we went to a cheaper option, or who knows. But I think this is a stopgap measure that we can do now. But I do think I don't know if it's the Finance Committee's purview to do this as a long-term conversation, but there needs to be probably maybe those in the committee of the whole or some other committee infrastructure about having a longer-term plan for what we're going to do whenever eventually the budget request for this gets to be out of our ability or something like that. Any other, I guess, so Mr. Powers, I don't know how this works. Can we request this to you to be put in there for us to vote on later, or are there more negotiations that we need to work on?
I will make a note. I will go through the budget, see where maybe we can make a staff recommendation as a best place to put it.
Okay.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. There may be a place that we are already making payments to them for those franchise fees, and it may be as simple as doing a transfer from the general fund into that key.
Okay.
So I will look into those things.
Well, as far as putting it in council's key or council's line, that is not the necessary thing. That is just a suggestion. So if there is a better way to put that in the budget, I don't think the Finance Committee is going to bicker over what line it goes into.
Understood.
I
Thank you.
believe there is a place, and Mr. Miracle can confirm this, a pass-through key somewhere for when the franchise fees come in.
That's correct.
If we just put that dollar amount, allocated that additional dollar amount into that key. That way, if the franchise, no matter what happens with the franchise fees, they still have enough, we still have those extra funds to carry over to NCT.
Mr. Curtin, if I may.
Yes, sir.
One of the things, we're doing with this budget, and we have to, 5-year forecast as well. And if we have talked in depth through the Finance Committee, Mr. Moore, Mr. Braden, Mrs. Franzen, and yourself, the franchise fees are continuing to trend down pretty sharply. I think we even did over the last 5 years, what it looked like 5 years ago, and it was pretty significant. So I think maybe in the Finance Committee, as we talk in a couple weeks, we could maybe think a little more about this, about how do we want to do this? Because I don't think 24,000, 2026, I think 2027 is going to be more, and 28 and 29, 30. So maybe we can all put our heads together and I think talk to Mr. Bonzo about this as well. Might be maybe a little different way to do this, because I'm pretty sure we've seen what has happened the last 5 years. It might help us moving forward, but we are going to need to know to put a number in there for the forecast. So let's keep that in your mind as well.
Thank you for that, sir.
And the other thing to keep in mind with that, not only are the franchise fees decreasing, but the health insurance and salaries we would assume would increase as well. So it's not going to be just looking at the decrease in the revenue. There will be additional expenses to pay for the the two employees of NCT.
Yeah. And if you think about the just, what would you say, 140, 150,000 to run it, there's two employees there right now. And I think they both have health insurance, at least a partial health insurance kind of plan. But like, I can't imagine they've really gotten raises like over a long term. Like, I mean, they've both been there, I think 20 years each. So it's not like they literally do it because they love doing it. They do it because they feel like it's a service. And I don't know, there has been options in the past talked about the city just bring them on as city employees, like in Norcom, but they just might have special titles. And there's so many ways that you could do it. I just think what I love hearing from you all is that you all want to like do what we can as a city within reason. So.
I think Norwood would be a very different place if we didn't have access to, or the public didn't have access to our council meetings.
I know it would have maybe changed my trajectory of, for better or worse.
Yeah, getting involved and engaged in the city.
Yes.
Sure. I want to be aware of the time. It is a little after 6:30. My goal is to round this up by 7 o'clock, so let's keep moving. We have one other request from council that we would like to see, and that is $10,000 added to the community center budget, but into the senior center programs. That money ideally would be spent on senior center meals. Right now, they depend a lot on donations. I talked to Mr. Gabbard, and on one hand, Mr. Gabbard is okay to continue without this. If we don't fund this, they will find ways to do this. But that means that there are good people and good organizations out there like the fire department who sponsor some of these meals. But then also April Maloney, our senior center director, will take food donations from leftover at the food bank. And so this is a very active service. We recently received a letter from Donna Lake about the active services of our senior center. So Mr. Moore, do you have any other, this was something that came up to your radar as well. Anything you want to add about why we see this as a necessary thing to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think big picture, the senior center is in month 19 of operation. If you look at June through October of 2024, compared to June through October of this year, their scan-ins have more than doubled. April Maloney does a great job, I think, with it, and is a person who goes above and beyond to do her job. I think with that, she can only cover so much ground, and I think, gosh, if she didn't have to go out and privately fundraise $200 every week to put on 50 weekly lunches for seniors, what else could she do with that time in terms of good works, touch points with seniors, et cetera. And so I understand there is some money right now. At the very least, I think there's some in materials and supplies, there's some in contractual services. Ultimately, I think sort of having a line item for that. Our Norwood has a sizable senior population. I want to say that maybe 16 to 18% of our residents are eligible to participate in community center programming. And so just to continue to invest in that and have Norwood be a place where people can find community across their lifetime, to me, it's just kind of a no-brainer. So that is my humble request.
So if you could please add that to our request. Ms. Franzen?
Oh, no, I was just,
Fixing your hair.
I was fixing my hair and also agreeing for later.
And for what that's worth, that $10,000, as Mr. Moore mentioned, is $200 a week in this. This is not a frivolous request, and I think you made a good point. All right, any other comments or questions about additions or requests to the budget? All right, let's move on to variances of cuts to the budget. Just for sake of expediency, I did talk to somebody at the fire department or the police department. The dispatch decrease, that's a 31% decrease, but at $43,000. From what I understand, that's a more accurate number of the calls that we are being billed for.
Yeah, that's correct. So we got, for this budget, we put a direct quote from the county in. So initially, when we moved to the county, we were doing that with an assumed number of calls. we have discovered that those numbers are quite a bit lower. And the result of that has been that each year since we have moved to the county, we have paid less than we did the year before. Obviously, that trend cannot continue forever. And I would say we're probably at the point where we're going to stop doing that. We're going down about $2,000 this year from between 2025 and 2026.
Mr. Powers, what do you attribute that to?
That's just the call volumes are lower than they were anticipated when we entered that agreement.
And it's my understanding in my conversations with Mr. Bonsall, the dispatch left before my time on council, but my understanding is, in my conversations with the police chief and the fire chief, that it has been an overwhelming positive experience for us to have outsourced the dispatch. And I guess I just want confirmation of that from administration.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. So in the final year of operation, the dispatch center here cost us about $1.1 million. If you take a look at what our recreation center costs now, it's basically the difference. So functionally, what we have done is swapped out running an in-house dispatch center for having a fully functioning recreation center with an indoor pool, all the great equipment that we have down there. And we've been able to access a lot of additional equipment that we would never have had running our own dispatch center, things like mobile communication centers, access to just really an enormous amount of resources that we didn't have before. So it's been a success on all fronts, I would say.
Thank you. Do you have a sense of how much we've saved?
Probably about,
Mr. Bonsall
Yeah.
might.
I mean, we would probably be paying 1.4 to 1.5 million this year, frankly, if we would still have our own. I mean, there were still assets that we needed to invest in to keep ourselves competitive, like, not competitive, but like on the cutting edge of where we needed to be to protect our citizens. And I mean, was 2019 our last year, Mr. Powers, or was it 2020?
2020.
Yeah, so that would have been, we're almost 4 full years here. So, I mean, I would say about $5 million is probably.
I would agree with that.
So it's, yeah, I mean, I think the simple math is, so like this year, we're proposing 96,000 is our total dispatch expense to the county.
Correct.
And so if you're saying that 1.1 million
Probably 1.5.
was where we left off in 2020, this coming year would be year 6 of having roughly $100,000 expense versus.
Yeah, and the mayor was elected in he started his term in January 1st, 2020. So it was that year that we had all the discussions and everything. I think somewhere, I think October, November is when we would have started going to dispatch. But yeah, that's.
It's kind of hard to determine. Each year that number goes up because we would have to update the computer, whatever computers that they used each year, and that went up and up and up and up every year substantially. So
That's
it's even
correct.
hard to determine. It's probably more than we would imagine. Because every year that cost increased exponentially.
Yeah, I agree completely.
All right, there are 3 other items that I wanted to point out on this list. I'm more than welcome to open the floor for any other discussion. But Mr. Powers, the mayor's office took a $45,000 requested deduction, so I wanted to give some credit or to see if there's an issue there. But it looks like the mayor is being very conservative with his budget there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So we're basically lining that up with what the expenditures have been. And so that's what brought that down.
The recreation department, I heard a reason for why this is being reduced by that much, but I wanted to make sure I got it correct. So could you speak to that?
So this is basically the almost the entirety of that difference is changes in the staffing funding. So it had been overfunded in years past, so we were bringing it down something that's much closer to the actuals.
Okay. And did it have something to do with the pool?
I think probably in the current FRP that the contract to pay for the pool management was added to the contractual line, but that similar amount was not reduced from the personnel line.
Okay, that's yeah, thank you. Then lastly, I wanted to point out the Parks and Playgrounds is getting a reduction of $58,000. That seems like a big number to kind of take away from our Parks and Playgrounds, but I wanted to give some context before we got any further on that.
I think that's just a change in capital spending from year to year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there were some larger projects that got done last year, and now it's just kind of going back. I feel like that fluctuates quite a bit depending on the scope, considering sometimes it's a parking lot, sometimes it's just a sidewalk that needs done.
All right, if you can take a look at this or this, the document with the overview of the budget, are there any other line items that we want to drill into a little bit deeper? We talked about council, the difference there between shifting it from council to clerk of council. Any other questions about the reduction in the variance?
This is just a really specific question under parks, the $5,000 for Verizon.
So the cameras that are located in the parks have to have a cell
Got it.
line.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
While we're on parks, I know that there is a significant line item in there for the Millcrest connector path. Is that the, let's call it Wasson Way West, that kind of goes up from Alloy towards Millcrest and ultimately towards like Sugar and Spice and Bond Hill?
Yeah, so this would be the land acquisition for the former rail line that runs along the west side of the city. Yes.
Got it. And is that expected to actually take place in 2026?
That's a lengthy process, so the timing on that could be difficult. Before we would be able to make a purchase, there would have to be a rail abandonment process. That's a federal process. Can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So we will get a good handle on that early in the year.
Got it.
Sorry.
So there's some, I guess there's some non-zero chance that that doesn't happen in 26, in which case we would maybe pull forward some other capital project, significant capital project from 27, sort of flip-flop them.
Yeah, that's what we would look to do.
Okay.
I just had a question about the increased cost in that potential acquisition. Is that a number that we're getting from the railroad, or is that just our best guess at what it might cost?
At this point, we had made an offer at that amount. So there's still negotiation going on at this point.
Lengthy process.
Yes, it is.
Ghost. The potential cuts here,
Yes,
the guardrail removal, repave and stripe, and bathroom upgrades, just says potential cut. The potential being funding, other priorities.
Those items are listed as potential cuts because they're the lower priorities out of the list.
Thank you.
If more funding is needed for something else, those would be the first on the proverbial chopping block.
All right. Oh,
May I ask, are we just to the general sort of questions?
so yeah, at this point, I was gonna, I had a list of questions that I had put into this as well, but it looks like we have addressed most of those. There's two that I want to focus on specifically. So yes, let's open it up for questions at this point.
Sure. I think the only couple that I would ask about that we haven't already spoken about in some form or fashion. So in parks in general, well, in parks, but this is really just more of a general question. I see that we have 150,000 grant match. I'm guessing that's similar to the trees in the sense that like we would put up the initial funds and then they get reimbursed, that sort of thing. I guess what I'm wondering is more broadly, is there anywhere else that we should be like kind of keeping some powder dry for this sort of matching grant opportunities, just so that we are able to leverage those outside funds?
Don't have a great answer to that question right off the cuff. There are a lot of things shifting with grant opportunities at the moment, based on federal and state funding. So I don't know what all will be available in 2026, and it is hard to make those set asides. Now the lighting is a project that we would like to do on the baseball diamonds, but that's not necessarily something that's in the cards unless we're able to find some matching funds for it. And so what's penciled in there is actually the city's contribution toward a larger project.
Okay, got it. So in theory, making this out, the project costs 500,000, 150 is the city share, but then the 350 comes from somewhere else.
Correct.
So that's our table stakes
Yes.
for such a project. Okay. And then I think the only other comment, and I know that when we met last, perhaps, I think Mr. Miracle's position that we discussed, and that person sort of being reclassified, they were brought in sort of at a not the right level. There was a mention of in 2026, perhaps Ms. Zombek reviewing in a more wholesale way the citywide pay scale for some number of positions. And so I don't know if that would ultimately take effect in 2027. But I guess my question is, do we feel like there is sort of wiggle room in here to accommodate that if she's able to update that in the front half of 2026?
So for employees who are union positions, those raises are all built into this.
Okay.
For employees in appointed positions, where those employees still have room to grow in salary, there are funds included in here to allow those appointing authorities to make those increases.
Okay.
As we get to the point where we're able to do a market study on positions, when we're looking at the appointed positions, we're looking at probably less than 20. It seems about accurate. So it's not by any means the majority of the positions. We would not do those changes all at once. So you wouldn't move necessarily from a position that's, just as an example, 20% under market to into market all in one swoop. But you would find a way to do that over a period of years. So it wouldn't be baked into one budget.
Okay. Got it. So it sounds like ultimately it is all sort of accounted for. The desire to do right by people is in
Yes.
here. Okay, great.
Two other questions. This is something that I think we get from citizens all the time. So can we just have a brief context overview of what we're looking at doing for streets for next year?
Yeah, we can take that. So the O2 Street Fund has 1.1 million included for street projects. We do have projects on the list for next year. We are looking to do South Jefferson. We are continuing to do Rolston. That will go into next year, so that one is continuing. We also have some grants that I'm not at a point where I can make necessarily an announcement on, but we are very optimistic about receiving some grants that can help with that funding to do some additional side streets.
So you're saying that the 1.2 under capital is for South Jefferson and Ralston?
That is not, the funding is not attributed in the budget to any particular street.
But is that the one, because there's the 1.25 and then it's just blank? Is that
So
streets generic?
1.25 is the total capital expenditure. So there's some additional funding in there for new poles and cables to allow us to put banners back over Montgomery Road, some
So-
catch basin work.
The 1.167 is for those two streets?
That's for street projects generally. So if we're able to get grant funding, it could change which streets those are applied to.
Okay, because South Jefferson I thought was already 1.2 million.
South Jefferson is already funded at a specific level, but that amortization schedule hasn't come out. And the first payment for that would be due for the first, either the January or June after the project is completed. So if that's going to be done this year, let's say that it ends up being done by November of next year, just 6 months after, I believe your first bill on that would be in 2020, June 1st.
So we're paying for it, so it would really come out of 2027's money.
And typically, you'll see like the engineering cost for a project come out of the years before budget because it takes several months to plan that. And those engineering costs can be very significant too. They can be $300,000-$400,000, depending on the shape of the road.
So just as of right now, those are the two streets that we have on tap with no additional funding. So if we want more streets done, we need additional funding.
Additional funding will always make more streets be done. Just as a general
Yeah, the
statement.
general rule. Money's helpful.
So a hypothetical street levy would allow us more latitude to apply for more grants that would allow us to do more side streets, hypothetically.
Yeah,
Yes.
you also have to remember, with, especially like when we go after like OPWC funding and things like that, if we're successful in the best of time, in the best of circumstances, that ends up being a 50% loan and a 10% grant. And that is, as an amortization scale, I guess we built that over typically the OPWC is like 30 years. So that's something you do have to put in the budget and bake in for 30 years. So those costs end up being significant the more streets you do, and we do it on that kind of a scale. Your guaranteed payments that you're paying out, they will add up quicker.
And we do also have, if you take as an example, some of the work that's gone on Montgomery Road has been funded through SORTA grants. So that includes the paving, but also the pedestrian work. So the city has to expend that money, and then we receive that back as a reimbursement. So you may end up at a year where the net is very low for what has been expended because of our fiscal emergency status. We have to kind of keep that in line, so we can't necessarily spend money as quickly as a lot of communities could, which is some of why our balances have built up over the years.
Would there be a way, just because it's not like a credit card, but, you know, we're paying a portion, but then we have this 30 years of the payment of what, half of 1.2? Is that right? Or
Yes, I believe the most
So-
recent one too, which South Jefferson, I thought was more than that.
I think 1.2 was the low.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
2.4
that-
total.
Yeah, so that's just our portion.
is the 1.2? So then what will our, is it a monthly payment, an annual payment?
It's biannual,
So twice a year.
twice a year.
Would-
Paid either on January 1st and July 1st of each year.
Would there be a way for, because I imagine we are currently paying for streets
Correct.
that are on this 30-year. Is that tracked anywhere that we can see what we're already paying for?
I don't think it will have Ralston on it or anything, but I believe I sent, Ms. Franzen, I believe I sent you something a while back that showed, or maybe it was you and the mayor, I can't remember, but I can get that to you. It was basically a list of everything that had been done since I'd been here, starting in 1996. And then I had a separate list that showed what our payments are that we're paying out currently, we're currently still paying.
So would you have an estimate of what we pay
Off the top of
annual?
my head, no.
That'd be impressive.
It would have been.
I should have told you ahead of time. That could have been like a,
But I don't think they're out, I mean, if you don't want, Mr. Miracle, don't we pay those out of the street fund? And if we do, they're not I mean, I would think that I don't see anything on here that lists like amortization or,
It should be listed under debt service.
Those are primarily paid out of the permissive motor vehicle tax.
really interesting. Yeah, I think if you look at the ending balance, sorry, Mr. Gert, but if you look at the ending balance in October for the street fund, it was like $1.4 million after encumbrances or something. Plus, if you take into account the revenue that we'll be getting from the street fund next year, I don't know, 800,000 or 900,000. But I mean, I think there's opportunity to Ms. Hoover's point too. Like, you know, you all said if there's more money, maybe we could do more. There's probably opportunity for this next plan to have that a higher number so that potentially you all could do more in 2026, or at least have the good thing about these funds that are not general fund. A lot of times we appropriate the full amount of the fund if we're not in fiscal emergency, especially because it gives the administration flexibility to take care of things. So that would be one example where I wouldn't mind you all having a higher appropriation, even if you can't get to all, things that you might want to get to, at least it's appropriated so that could get to it, then be great.
If I had just, on that topic, so I'm looking back at last year's, we'll call it street section budget, and it is meaningfully stepped down to where, like last year, Montgomery Road was paid for out of the street section, but not the street fund. So is it safe to say that basically the expectation is that the street fund would be the primary source for any street projects, but that the street section is effectively the capital there are going towards vehicles and not actual street paving projects?
The street section of the general fund has supported a lot of street projects. It is supporting the Montgomery Road projects this year. It's done that with Smith and Carthage as well. So I think that kind of depends on which project is going on at the time and where our other capital outlays are.
Got it. So in effect, I guess, that step, like if somebody looked at year over year, they would see a decrease in the street section part of the general fund. In this particular case, the step down is because it was towards Montgomery. And then let's say side road paving projects are more typically funded out of the street fund. Is that?
I think that's probably fair.
Okay.
On the whole.
Okay.
There were just on city expenditures for Montgomery Road during this calendar year, it's been about $3.5 million, with almost all of that being able to come back to the city in sort of reimbursements.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, I want to stay on target. It's 7:02. I'm going to wrap up with a couple of things real quick. I think this conversation about streets is important to talk about in the scope of the whole budget. It's not like, again, we're being very frivolous with the budget. The more streets we do, the less we have to do with regular programs. We don't have a lot of programs in the city to cut. If we made cuts to expand the street pavement, we would see very visible cuts in our city. So I want to remind people that we started this saying that we're requesting more than we had proposed to request. But I hope that the message is we're being very frugal with the money that we have, that we are not, spending a very liberal budget. And yeah, I just would babble on if I keep going with that. So, there's one other thing that I didn't get to with questions. There is a request from the Finance Committee to add $1,500 in funds probably to the City Council budget. And this would go for things like kind of advertising issues like town halls or the community survey or something like that. So that's another request that we have to add to the budget for City Council. The last thing do you want to add anything to that?
No, I would just say, I think like earlier this year, I think I found it surprising when there was talk about all the different ways to get the community survey out. And I asked about, could we print something? Could we hand deliver it to every door in town? That sort of thing. And there wasn't funds for that. And so I think whether it's inviting people to participate in a city initiative like the community survey, whether it is, let's say that we were to do a quarterly town hall for each ward, just have a little bit of wiggle room to be able to reach people in an old-fashioned physical kind of way, rather than just counting on somebody to see it on Facebook or visit the website, really go to people with that kind of message.
All right, and the last thing I want to say, so according to the FRP, on or before December 1st, City Council should complete its budget hearings on city estimates. To ensure the compliance with the recovery plan, the city estimates shall be sent to the financial supervisor for review by the clerk of City Council within 7 days from the passage of the proposed appropriations ordinance resulting from the City Council's hearing on city estimates. So the next step is that we need to pass an ordinance with our proposed budget for the year, and then that needs to go to Anna Mary and the state, and then our auditor, our president of council, and the mayor get to sit down with our auditor and start working over the next steps of the budget. So that is the next step of our process with Finance Committee and having these hearings. Are there any other comments, questions, or concerns for the good of the order?
I would just note that that is exactly, what you said is exactly what is in that plan. Mr. Miracle and I reviewed this before the council meeting tonight, just to see that is exactly what's stated. That is not exactly in the financial supervisor's expectations. Like their expectations are going to be that we continue on with the plan that we have for the first quarter, in some way, whether we get full year appropriations or not. And then these numbers, like the senior lunches and stuff would get added in April. I think that everything y'all are doing is perfect. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do, and we'll just see what they say, But just note that there could be a few hiccups there.
Sure. But we will not get dinged on not following the plan.
Yeah.
Right. Mr. Gurton, if I may, I know we had previously held, I believe, next Tuesday for potential follow-up.
Oh, correct.
I guess I wanted to see whether or not we thought we should still hold that time. I know Mr. Powers, one such adjustment that you called out was revising the healthcare increase and the assumptions, which would sort of add money back into the budget to maybe account for some of these other things we've talked about. Would it make sense to keep that time next Tuesday, I guess is my question. Or do we feel like that is not necessary?
I will open that up to other people that are more experts than myself.
I think we can speak to it at the Finance Committee on the, at our next meeting. Yeah.
I'm fine with having it on our regular finance meeting, reviewing that, unless something really big changes in between now and then besides what we've already talked about.
Thank you.
So that makes it the 18th or the 25th?
The 25th.
Oh, yeah, that is our regular schedule.
That is our regular.
Regularly scheduled 25th. So the hold for next Tuesday then sounds like we are waiving that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is also a basketball game that day
Oh, right.
for Norwood City employees, and that includes us, including James. So,
Watching, not playing, correct?
No, $10 tickets to,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, they may call
Hopefully
James
they
up,
win.
I don't know.
I could play
Mr.
pickleball.
Powers, does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes, it does.
All right, Mr. President, I then recommend that we adjourn this meeting.
All right. Thank you. There are no other issues. I will go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.